So yeah, it's so now teaching becomes partly what I'm passionate about, and the other part of teaching becomes the skills that you need. And I've done lots of courses. I've been very, very lucky. I've done lots of what you would call classic, you know, scientist courses. I've got degrees and masters and things like that. I've done them all over England, but I've got some other courses as well. Some really interesting ones. I'm a qualified plumber, electrician, all those kind of things. Um, and what's really interesting, I over COVID, and you are too young really to remember what COVID was like. I had a lot of time left, and just after COVID, I thought, you know what, I'm going to do a few more courses. And I did a plumbing course, and I was literally shocked how you have adults in their forties who one can't read. And what I mean by can't read is they can make all the sounds on the paper in the reading paragraph, but they can't understand what they're reading. And this is a huge problem. And predominantly, now sounds really sexist, but there's a huge issue about this, predominantly in boys and men. It's a huge issue with the Department of Education. It's something that we've been kind of trying to deal with for the last 10 years and badly. So I was doing, I believe it or not, I was teaching last night till 9:30 because there's a maths paper today, an A-level maths paper. And I was saying to the students, the biggest issue is not building a skill. The biggest issue is, reading properly. And there are two types of reading. There is passive reading. And honestly, if I tell you the truth, and you're old enough now to hear the truth, I did not enjoy reading when I was your age. And I think the majority of that was from school telling me during English Lit and English Lang to read Shakespeare. Oh God, I hate Shakespeare. Oh my God, it's just. And I remember being young and just not caring, and I just did not want to read a book, which is, I won't hide it. I won't pretend that I was a perfect student. Um, and the problem was, one, I wasn't interested, but two, it's a different kind of reading. When you read a novel, and I think Silverfin, I was reading Silverfin with my year nines and year tens about 10 years ago. It's brilliant. It was James Bond when he was at school. There's like explosions and stuff. And I really enjoyed that. And I really got into reading as I got older. And I think that's an absolute shame. And one of the skills you need to develop is reading. And there are two types: passive reading when you read a novel, and active reading. And active reading is something completely different. And in one sense, it is really frustrating. And I speak as a boy. I can't speak as a girl. I girls are really complicated. Boys are really simple. So as a boy, I can tell you this: this is going to be really frustrating. You are not going to enjoy it a lot of times. You're going to find it annoying. You are not going to listen to me, and it's not because you're being horrible. It's because, well, that's just the way we are. We like to take shortcuts. We like to do things in our head. We and I don't mean that in a nasty way. I really don't. I just think, when it comes to certain things like reading properly, active reading, we just don't bother. We just, and it's not out of being horrible. I think a lot of English teachers don't get that. So, what you're doing today is comprehension, right? And it's not a lot, but you are reading. And this, oh God, made that a bit small. And this is all about comprehension. So last week, and I know a couple of you are new. I think it's Alexi who's new. Alexis, sorry, I know I've got Alexi as well. So if you're new, talk to me. Tell me something doesn't work. All right. But I hope there are lessons I don't like doing, and I really am in two minds of this. So this is comprehension, and this is some text on what we did last lesson, which was the extraction of iron in a blast furnace and stuff, and the extraction of aluminium and oxides. And comprehension is all about, I hear the word comprehension, I go, oh God, that reminds me so much of GCSE English. Um, and to be honest, it's not a bad thing. It's just, you have this reaction to certain things. So I also like being honest. I don't like making things up in terms of as a teacher. So what does it mean by comprehension? Read to understand. Okay. And when it comes to things like Shakespeare, I don't care. It was not something I really enjoyed. Um, but when it comes to other things, and I love building things, um, I'm sure I showed you at the end of last term me building a robotic arm with my students. But it's to read to understand, and this is very different to reading Silverfin. Um, and also like skullduggery. I've not read much of it. I really got my children into it, my son into skullduggery when he was about 10, 11, I think. Um, but I think it's really well written, and they're really cool stories. So comprehension means read to understand. And there is something very, very, very important in this. When you read to understand, you do something, all right? And this literally means you do something. You underline the key words, okay? Now, this is what I spent a lot of time. I spent a 2-hour lesson yesterday with year 13 talking about underlining the key words. And the first question you really got to think about, well, what's a key word, okay? And I'm asked, right, sir, I don't know which one to line. What's the key word? So I'm going to tell you two things. One, it is the words we teach you, okay? So when it came to extraction of iron, you would have heard carbon, carbon monoxide, carbon dioxide. You'd have heard heat, iron ore, hematite. These are the words that I mentioned. The truth is, now here's a really interesting thing, right? In terms of what are the key words and the things in the textbook and stuff, there's something else to this. And something else to this is, it doesn't matter. It does not matter. And what I mean by that is when you're underlining and you're trying to underline the keywords, you start digging. It's like being a gold miner looking for little nuggets. And within that process, your brain changes. So no longer are you reading like you're reading a novel, like you're reading non-fiction. You're actually digging for something, and your brain sees it in a different way. Okay, and that is the entire point of underlining the keywords. It changes from passive to active reading. All right, so this is properties of iron. Iron is a silver grey metallic element. Right. You're going to read through it. I'm not going to read it for you. You're going to underline your keywords. Right? And that's your point in this. You must underline the keywords. Okay. Now, and again, I don't care if you get it wrong. I don't care if you underline the wrong keywords. Once you've read it and you've got some formulas and things, and I hope some of it and everything we've done in formulas makes some sense. And again, it really doesn't matter. It's the attempt to underline the keywords, trying to find the words that you've heard before in a lesson, in a YouTube video, something like that. Once you've read it, okay. And the other thing is, some of you might decide to do something interesting, like becoming a vet. It's a cool thing to learn. There's a test called the UCAT that you have to pass when you're 17. It's all to do with reading comprehension, but it's not dull and boring. Oh God, did I say that? I said that. That's very bad. So what you're going to do after you read all that, you move down to the reading comprehension down here. So I don't like that. I want to be curvy. I like curvy lines. I want it to be thick. So after you've read it, you've got these questions. And again, this is the tough part. I just finished teaching one student in a grammar school, and he can read the question, but he can't work out what the question is saying, so he guesses. So this is the interesting part. Read the question, underline the keywords again. All right, answer these questions. And again, I'm not reading them for you. I'm being really horrible. I'm just not, because that's the entire point of this exercise. I do not care if your answers are right or wrong. And again, there's something really funny I'm saying there. It is the attempt that is important. And then there's some harder ones here. Okay, we don't need that last page there. And that's your job today, darlings. It's in every essence of the word. This can be a really annoying exercise, and I get it, I really do. Okay, so that's under. I'm going to delete my work from last week over here. For anybody who is new, what you do really is simply just select all of this, like I'm doing, just select it. So if you look on the left-hand side, I've got the arrow selected. Oopsie daisy, I've now not selected the arrow. Select it, just press copy paste, so you can copy that down here, and then paste it wherever you want on your board, and then put your name on it so I can see. I zoom out, okay, and that's your task. Now, I think I've told you. Oh, I'm over my 10 minute. Right, I'm stopping.